Hello everyone, Calamity here, and I want to just thank everyone again for getting me over 1,000 subscribers. I really appreciate it. As thanks, I'm just going to continue doing my thing, just uploading more Genshin guides for y'all, and just more videos overall, hopefully, and improving as a content creator. Starting with today's video, we're going to talk about our favorite senior forest ranger, Tighnari. Tighnari is what you would call a burst DPS, or a quick swap DPS, meaning he does a lot of his damage up front, but he does have a bit of downtime in between doing his rotation again. It's not as bad as Alhaitham's cooldowns though. His cooldowns are a bit more manageable. However, this opens up some opportunities for teammates for him. This means that he's okay with his sub DPS teammates taking a bit of on-field time while he's on his cooldown. Now in this video, I'm going to go over everything you need to know about Tighnari, from his talents, his weapons, his artifacts, his constellations, team setups, and of course a Spiral Abyss showcase at the very end. We have a lot to go over, so let's get started with his talents. We're going to start with his normal attack, and for the past few guides I've been saying, you know, this is fairly standard, let's move on. However, Tighnari is different. He actually does have something different here, and if we take a look at his charged attack, so his normal attack and his plunging attack are just the very normal standard stuff here. His charge attack, however, does have a level 2 charge. So the level 1 is the same as every other bow character in this game. It's just going to do some Dendro damage when you charge it. The level 2 is going to fire what's called a wreath arrow that also deals Dendro damage. However, when it hits an opponent, it will create 4 cluster bloom arrows that will track nearby opponents and also deal Dendro damage as well. Now obviously if we're fighting a boss, all those wreath arrows and cluster bloom arrows are going to hit the same target. Quickly going to look at the skill attributes. My Tighnari's normal attack talent is at level 9. The wreath arrow is where a lot of Tighnari's damage comes from, so it is highly recommended to upgrade his normal attack talent. We can see the wreath arrow damage. It might not look a lot with the skill multipliers being kind of low here, but do keep in mind the cluster bloom arrow does hit multiple times. Now you also might have noticed in the gameplay I'm showing here that it takes quite a while to charge his level 2. Fortunately, there's a way to make his charge time a lot faster thanks to his elemental skill, which we're going to go over next. It's called the Vijnana Phala Mine. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but this is a fairly straightforward elemental skill. He's going to throw out what's called a Stormheart mine that deals AoE Dendro damage, and it creates a field that will taunt nearby opponents in the field and draw their fire. Additionally, Tighnari is going to get what's called the suffusion effect, which will decrease his charging time by 2.4 seconds, and this effect will end when you fire 3 wreath arrows or when the skill duration ends. Now if we take a look at the skill attributes, we can see that the skill damage is that first initial damage when you throw the mine. The 8 seconds is how long the field lasts with the taunt. The 12 seconds is how long you have to fire 3 wreath arrows before you lose that decreased charge time. While this skill is really good, it actually has the lowest priority of all of his talents. As you can see, the skill damage is the only thing that gets upgraded when you level up this talent. We're not really using this skill because of its great damage. I mean, it does some damage for sure, but we're using it because it decreases our charge attack time, and that's really huge. Let's move on to his elemental burst, which is called Fashioner's Tanglevine Shaft. This is also a fairly straightforward elemental burst. Basically, Tighnari is going to do a fancy animation, and he's going to fire a bunch of arrows, just like his wreath arrows and cluster bloom arrows, that are going to just track and hit nearby opponents and deal Dendro damage. However, there's also a second wave of arrows, so when those first wave of arrows that you shoot hit, they will make even more arrows that will also track and damage nearby opponents with Dendro damage. Take a quick look-sees at the skill attributes. We can see that the secondary Tanglevine Shaft arrows do a bit more damage than the initial arrows on your burst, and this has a cooldown of 12 seconds, and wowie wow, we have a very cheap burst cost of 40. This is very nice, means that Tighnari does not need to heavily invest in energy recharge, nor does he really need a battery on his team. Now let's move on to his Ascension talents, starting with the first one. I just love this character because of how easy his talents are to explain. The first one's called Keen Sight, and the first time you fire a Wreath Arrow, you're going to gain 50 Elemental Mastery for 4 seconds. This is going to be important to note when we talk about upcoming combos that you want to be doing with Tighnari later on in the video. Next up, we have Scholarly Blade. This is going to make Elemental Mastery a bit more valuable for you. This is going to increase his charge attack damage as well as his burst damage by 0.06%, and this has a maximum damage increase of 60%, so 600 EM is the limit, but as we just saw, Keen Sight gives us 50, so you don't even need to go for 600 EM. You can if you want to, just means more damage, but of course, you know, try to balance your stats out when building them. Lastly, we have Encyclopedic Knowledge. This is just going to show you the location of unique Sumeru resources on the minimap, going to make your farming a bit easier. Alright, we're moving on to weapons for Tighnari, and one of the greatest weapons that Tighnari can take advantage of and is extremely free-to-play friendly is the Slingshot. This is a 3-star weapon, so very, very common. You'll probably find this in chests. It provides crit rate as a substat, and if we look at the weapon's effect, it will increase your charge attack damage by 60% at Refinement 5 if your charge attack hits a target within 0.3 seconds of being fired, otherwise you lose 10% damage. So this is a weapon you can easily get to Refinement 5, crit rate also really good substat. The only thing you just need to keep in mind though when using the Slingshot is just to be as close to your enemies as possible when you fire your arrows. This is to minimize that travel time, so you get that damage increase. Otherwise, if you try to shoot enemies from far away, like you're playing Ganyu or something, you're gonna not only not get the 60% increase in damage, you're gonna lose 10% as well. So big oof there. Just make sure you're as close as possible when using the Slingshot. And honestly, this weapon is gonna be great for Tighnari, and it's even better than a lot of his 4-star options. I would say this weapon is going to just be fine if you're just using Tighnari for traveling and exploring Teyvat and stuff like that, then this weapon is more than enough than you will ever need. However, from my personal experience, I had a little bit of trouble getting the Slingshot to help me in Spiral Abyss. So if you're looking for easier and comfier Spiral Abyss clears, I would recommend a 4-star, and well, obviously a 5-star if you have one, but I did find the Slingshot to fall off a bit in the Spiral Abyss. Now, moving on to some 4-star options for Tighnari, we definitely can recommend the Stringless because of the Ascension talent we saw, getting a bunch of Elemental Mastery, good damage increase for Tighnari, as well as a 48% increase to his burst damage straight up, and the skill getting a nice bit of damage as well, but that does not affect your Wreath Arrows, keep that in mind. Also, because we're not using a Slingshot, that means we don't have to worry where we're standing when we shoot our Wreath Arrows. We don't have to be up front and close, we can be far away. Another weapon that I recommended in a video earlier this year was the Ibis Piercer. This is a weapon that you could only have gotten during an event, so if you're able to get, I believe this was 3.8, 3.7, somewhere around there. If you do have this weapon, it is a decent option for your Tighnari if you don't have anything else. Although even a Slingshot is probably going to be better than this, straight up, to be honest. But if you do have this just sitting around, it's not like the worst. It's not the worst option you could give your Tighnari. I don't have one in my inventory, but another bow that I can recommend is also going to be the Hamayumi. This is also another great free-to-play option because you can craft this bow in Inazuma, and excuse me, you can definitely get it to Refinement 5, no problem. And then lastly, if we are going to talk about some 5-star options for Tighnari, honestly, all of them are good because a lot of 5-star bows are just really solid, like Aqua Simulacra, Thundering Pulse, Polar Star. If you have any of those weapons just sitting around, you can slap them on your Tighnari and he's going to do just fine. Elegy for the end can also be an okay option as well. It's going to give him, it's basically going to cover your energy recharge needs. for sure. And then it gives you a bunch of elemental mastery initially, and then it gives you even more elemental mastery if you meet the weapon's effect requirements. So plenty of options there. Unfortunately, I do have to mention that his best in slot weapon is going to be his signature weapon, which is called the Hunter's Path. Unfortunately, I don't believe there's a way for you to obtain this weapon as of right now. I don't know if the devs have said anything about putting it in the standard banner yet. I do hope they put it in there someday alongside the reed of the beacon reed sword from Dia's signature weapon. As of right now, his best weapon is unavailable. Alright, moving on to artifacts. Luckily, Tighnari is a very easy character to build, and one of his best artifact sets is going to be a Wanderer's Troop. This straight up is going to increase your charge attack damage by 35%, as well as give you a bit of elemental mastery, which, as we saw, means more charge attack damage as well. So it's really nice for Tighnari. If you are looking for alternative sets, you also can give him a Gilded Dreams, which will also give him a bunch of elemental mastery. And if no one on your team is carrying one, you can also give Tighnari a Deepwood Memory set. This is also going to increase his Dendro damage bonus by 15%, as well as decrease your target's Dendro resistance by 30% when you use an elemental skill or burst. So that's really nice there. But usually your support is already the one carrying this, so you can give Tighnari a Wanderer's Troop or a Gilded Dreams instead. And early on, if you don't have enough to get a full 4-piece effect, you can mix and match. You can go like 2-piece Wanderer, 2-piece Gilded Dreams, or like 2-piece Gladiator's Finale for some attack percentage, 2-piece Shimenawa's Reminiscence if you have some good artifacts like that lying around, and those will do just fine until you're able to get a 4-piece set. Now that you've decided on an artifact set, what are you looking for in the substats? So let's take a look. Since Tighnari is a DPS character, we are looking for the subsets that you would look for any DPS character, really. We're looking for crit rate, crit damage, always going to be really good here for amplifying his damage. Elemental mastery is going to be really good for 2 reasons, because if Tighnari is the one proccing spread, which we want to do, that can improve the amount of damage that enemies take. But again, as we saw in his Ascension talent, he does get a damage boost from having elemental mastery. After that, you probably can just go for some attack percentage. Some flat attack is also going to be, you know, okay, assuming you got the higher stats first on your artifacts. And then our energy recharge, definitely a lower priority here. You do need some just so you can burst consistently off cooldown, but you, again, as I mentioned before, you don't have to heavily invest in your energy recharge. This artifact piece right here is a good example of that, of what you're looking for substats. Same with the plume here. We got some crit rate, crit damage, energy recharge, elemental mastery. When it comes to the sands, it's your choice of elemental mastery or attack percentage. Honestly, I would just recommend the sands that has the better substats for you. For the goblet, we do want to find a Dendro damage bonus goblet as our main stat. If you're still early on in your artifact farming, it's okay to use a elemental mastery or attack percentage goblet until then. For the circlet, same as any DPS really. Crit rate, crit damage as the main substat, whichever one you're lacking more of. This is obviously gonna, you know, depend on what weapon you gave him and how your substats rolled and all that stuff. Right, let's move on to Constellations for Tighnari. And since he is a standard character, these Constellations could be obtainable. I'm not saying that to curse your pulls or anything like that and make you lose your 50-50s to Tighnari, but it is possible for you to get some of these Constellations, unlike other limited 5-star characters. So let's talk about what they do, starting with C1. It's going to make your charge attack crit rate increase by 15%, which is straight up nice. Nothing too crazy, just nice. C2 basically makes it so that as long as there's any enemies inside the field of your mine when you toss it, you will gain 20% more Dendro damage bonus. Which is fantastic. More DPS for Tighnari. C3 and C5, of course, going to increase our skill and burst, while the skill we don't really care about too much, making C5 his worst constellation. C3 getting 3 levels to his burst, though, is a welcome addition for sure. C4 is Withering Glimpse in the Leaves. This is going to make it so that when you use your burst, all party members are going to gain 60 elemental mastery, including Tighnari himself. And if your burst triggers basically anything that Dendro can trigger in elemental reactions, burning, bloom, quicken, or spread, you're going to get another 60 elemental mastery, giving you a total of 120 from this constellation alone. Nice bit of damage there for your Tighnari, helping you reach that 60% damage cap quite easily. And finally, we have a very long constellation name here called Karma Adjudged from the Leaden Fruit. This is going to decrease your Wreath Arrow charging time even further, and you're going to produce an additional cluster bloom arrow upon hit, and it's going to deal 150% of Tighnari's attack as damage. So this is actually a really good constellation, really strong. It's just going to be more DPS. Unfortunately, when it comes to Tighnari's like constellations, none of them are really interesting in a way. Like, they don't change the character dynamically. There's no mechanics that are different. It's just honestly more damage, more damage, more damage. In C6, again, the decrease to the charging time though is really, really nice. It's gonna make your charge attacks feel even faster, especially when you use your elemental skill. They're basically going to be almost instant. C6 definitely going to be the strongest one here, but as I mentioned before, standard character, so it could be a thing that happens where you get some of his constellations. I don't mean to curse you, but you know, anyways, let's move on to his team setups. Alright, when it comes to team setups, Tighnari does not mind teammates that take up field time. So one of his best teammates that you could ever give Tighnari is actually a Yaimiko, or even a Lisa if you have her built. Yaimiko is just a character that takes up so much field time because she summons 3 totems, and then if you have her burst and you want to use it, well, it's summon 3 totems, use her burst, and then summon 3 totems again because of her ascension talent. So normally she's not that recommended to be used with other characters because she just takes up so much field time unless you're using her as a main DPS. But because Tighnari has, I wouldn't say like a long cooldown, but he does have quite a bit of a cooldown, it's okay to have a teammate like this to deal, you know, good damage while Tighnari's waiting to use his skill again. Also, Yaimiko's also really good with Alhaitham as well for the same reason. Just saying. Your third option doesn't have to be Nahida, but she certainly helps a lot. Nahida is here again to boost elemental mastery thanks to her burst. But Nahida also applies Dendro to work with Yaimiko's constant electro application as well, just so you can proc a bunch of spread. Spread increases Dendro damage that enemies take, and that is great for Tighnari. We want all of your enemies to be inflicted with spread. Now your fourth slot is definitely going to be more of a flex slot. I just have Dory here as a healer for Yaimiko and sort of a battery, because Yaimiko's burst cost is very, very expensive. You don't have to use Dory if you don't want to though. Or Nahida, I should say. But I will say that Yaimiko is a great option. If you don't have Yaimiko, then Lisa, who I don't have built, I'm sorry. Lisa becomes a really good option there because again, she also takes a bit of field time with her long charging skill, and then her burst is also going to be really good there. If you don't have Nahida, then we can go back to using, you know, Traveler's okay, Yao Yao if you want, Kali if you really don't have any other options is going to be also okay. Kirara if you want a shielder, as well as good Dendro application, Baiju, healer and shielder. So any Dendro character that you want to use is going to be fine, just as long as they have some really good Dendro application. Now your fourth slot is going to be a flex slot, as I mentioned, so it doesn't have to be Dory. It could also be Zhongli if you just want a shielder. Again, as we mentioned, one of his popular weapons to use is a slingshot, and you want to be up close and personal when you're using it. So, you know, having a really beefy shield is going to help you get close without, you know, getting interrupted while charging your Wreath Arrow. Layla, also another good teammate for Tighnari, because, you know, we just got her for free. And her element doesn't mess with what you're trying to do. So with Tighnari, you're trying to do spread, and, you know, Cryo doesn't mess with Dendro at all. So she can be a good option there. So plenty of options for your Tighnari. However, he only just wants to be mainly used in a spread team, if possible. You can sort of use him in a like Hyper Bloom, Nilo Bloom kind of stuff, but I feel like it's less about Tighnari at that point and more about the other characters. So obviously, like, yeah, if I use him in Nilo Bloom, well, then it's more of Nilo Bloom's team and less of a Tighnari team. Not saying he doesn't work in them, but I wanted to show you a team where Tighnari is the sort of main attraction, or the at least one of the main attractions. Alright, before we get to the Spiral Abyss showcase, I wanted to show you some combos that you can do with Tighnari. Tighnari has quite a bit of combos that you can do, but he does have one optimal one, and it's a bit tricky to do at first, but you'll definitely get the hang of it as you practice and use him more. So I'm going to showcase the easier combos first, and then I'll show you the more, I don't want to say complicated, but I'll show you the more complex one at the end, and I'll show you the pros and cons for each combo. So the first one we're going to showcase is the... So this is the first combo I'm going to show you, where you use your skill first, then you just do your 3 charge attacks. So you can see as we use our skill, we basically get those wreath arrows really fast, and if you're looking at the arrows that I'm shooting, they are turning into cluster bloom arrows, but you know, there's no enemies here, so they're not tracking anything. That's probably one of the easier combos to do, because there's not a lot of... I don't want to sound mean, but there's not a lot of thinking involved. You just use the skill, then you do wreath arrow, wreath arrow, wreath arrow, and then you would do your burst as the finisher, right? It's easy to do, but the downside to this combo is that you're actually not funneling your energy back to Tighnari because you have your burst. Tighnari actually gets energy when you toss your skill and you hit enemies with your wreath arrows. You actually get energy back when you have these fast charged wreath arrows, so it's actually really nice to, and again, because his energy cost is so low, it's going to help you with bursting off cooldown more consistently. So the next combo that I'm going to show you is where you do your skill first, then you do your burst, then you do 3 wreath arrows. So you do your... So I'm not using my burst because I can't just consistently use it over and over again. I would have to go, you know, fight enemies and get energy back. Now this combo will get your energy back since you're using your burst. However, you're not benefiting from the Ascension talent. Remember, his A1, you get 50% elemental mastery for 4 seconds when you fire a wreath arrow. We can use that 50 elemental mastery to increase our burst damage. So while these 2 combos I've showed you so far are definitely easier to do, they both have their downsides, with the first one being, you know, Tighnari not getting energy for himself, and then the second one being, well, his elemental burst is a little bit weaker than it should be. So what combo do you want to do to take advantage of both of these things? Both getting particles for Tighnari and taking advantage of that A1 talent. This one's going to be a little tricky, but I'm going to showcase the full combo here. So you're going to want to do his skill first, of course, and then 1 charged attack. Then you do your burst, and then 2 more charge attacks right after. So to demonstrate the full combo, I'll actually use the burst this time. We toss out the skill, then 1 wreath arrow, then you do burst, then you do 2 more wreath arrows. And that is the full Tighnari combo that gives him elemental particles from his wreath arrows, as well as increasing his own burst damage by a bit from his Ascension 1 talent. It might be, again, it might be a little hard to do, but it's definitely easy once you play Tighnari for a bit. If you're on keyboard, which I am, controllers can do this too. What helps me is to use the button for entering A mode. For keyboard, that's R, so you enter A mode like this. So, you press the skill, and then immediately enter A mode, then fire off that shot. Then I press the button again to exit A mode, do your burst, then go back into A mode as soon as it's done casting. That's what helped me consistently do this combo. It's not bad, compared to other character combos like like Eula or something like that, who have more complex combos. But it might just take you a bit to get used to. Hello everyone again, post-editing Panda here, and I'm going to be commentating while past Panda is clearing the Spiral Abyss for you. So right now you're seeing me just do the combo that I've mentioned before, the optimal one where I use my skill, one charge attack, burst, and then we use 2 more charge attacks. Once Tighnari's skill is on cooldown though, that's when we swap over to people like Yaimiko and Nahida, and they do their thing, their skills, their burst, since we have a bit of time before Tighnari can use his skill again. And once it's back up, we just do the same combo again for these primeval beasts, I think that's what they're called. I don't have anyone else's burst here, so I use Zhongli's burst here and reapply the shield, rinse and repeat. Yaimiko's totems are out there, applying a lot of electro, then we just quickly finish off that one. Now at this part of the chamber, I'm going to be honest with you, I did not think I was going to make it. We were only at 30 seconds left and we just got started with the final wave. But here I am, just sticking to doing the same rotation over and over again. And as that Hilichurl gets really low, I decide to just go to the other one because we have Nahida here who can do some long range damage. So I just focus on this Hilichurl rogue as well and do the same combo. And he's also pretty low. So the other Hilichurl that was far away just died. And we use Yaimiko here to get some damage. I should have used Zhongli's burst here, but I didn't think it was going to be enough. So I just panicked. I swapped to Nahida and we were able to get it last second. Literally last second there. So chamber 2, a lot easier to commentate. It is just the gigantic primal construct boss. This thing is basically a giant paperweight. We are using Electro and Dendro here to help stun him out of that invis phase, and we can just go ham on the damage. So here I got a little screwed by the auto aiming. Nahida was trying to go for the constructs there, but no big deal. We were able to get it. The boss is going to be stunned for a while, so we have free reign to do as much damage as possible. Now, when Tighnari's energy is kind of, how to put this, like off, like if I'm not able to burst in the combo that I was talking about previously, then usually I'll do, you know, some form of either doing the burst at the very end or doing the burst early on, depending on what my energy is looking like, usually at the end. And so, just again, the boss kind of rinses and repeats here. This boss really doesn't have much attack, so I don't really have to commentate too much here. Just doing the same combo, nice damage. We've been wailing on this boss for about a minute now, so I'm just doing everyone's burst while we wait for Tighnari's skill to come back online. We apply the shield, get some aggravates, some spread in there, put Yaimiko's totems down, and I'm just trying to generate some energy since we have plenty of time, and we were able to down this boss in a reasonable 1 minute and 20 seconds. Now let's move on to the final chamber, which is these 2 Bishop beast things, and you do have to kill them together. You can't just focus on one because of the soul link that they have on this chamber. So just like before, we are just doing the same combo over and over again. Hopefully you understand that's how easy it is to play Tighnari, and just doing his rotations. It's the same combo over and over again. There's no need to change up anything. I reapply the shield. I reapply Dendro with Nahida, and Yaimiko is applying Electro. And we also try to use Yaimiko's burst if they are grouped up together so that we can get plenty of AoE damage here. Now this move is really annoying. It's where they're like shooting constant icicles at you, so I kind of iframe it by using everyone's bursts. And I'm trying to focus on the Bishop that has more HP. I kind of got confused as to which that was. There, I think I only got the Ice Bishop there with Yaimiko's burst, which isn't great, but not the worst thing to happen there. Also, it was really hard to consistently do the combo here because these Bishops have an attack that drains your energy, so I wasn't always having my burst ready at all times. And here's an example of where Slingshot will get you in trouble because you don't have to be so close to them. When they're doing their breathing attacks and the spinning attacks and stuff like that, you can be far away from it and just safely doing your damage with Zhongli's shield. Reapplying Nahida's burst here and making sure to reapply Dendro. Then we swap over to Yaimiko and make sure that we get the totems up, of course, and then we swap back to Tighnari. They're both pretty low here, and this did not need to be as close as it was right here. Really close. I thought the burst would be enough damage, but it wasn't, so panicked. I tried to use Tighnari's burst, but eventually the totems we're able to down both beasts. And I'll pass it over to Pass Panda. Well, Spiral Abyss is always tiring as usual. And I don't know if Pass Panda explained it to y'all, but I'm gonna say it again. 2 of those chambers were way too close for comfort, I'll admit. But what would have made the runs a lot more comfy is, you know, if you have things like a 5-star weapon for Tighnari, if you have a signature weapon, or honestly any 5-star bow, that's a lot more attack, a lot more substats for him. And Constellations, if you've lost a couple 50-50s or you got lucky on the standard banner and you got a couple Constellations for Tighnari, then your runs will probably be a lot more comfortable, because he just gets more damage from his Constellations, so it's basically just a nice, you know, free ride on the Spiral Abyss. At least it would have been a lot more, you know, there would have been a lot more spare time than I had. I was a little bit down to the wire, and I will admit I did not play some of those rotations well, and I was messing around too much with Yaimiko and all that stuff. But with that being said, I hope I was able to showcase Tighnari in a good light and show that he is capable of taking on everything that this game has to offer, all the way up to the Spiral Abyss. And I did mine at C0, so it is definitely possible if you have more Constellations. I did do it on a 4-star bow. I did use the stringless. As I mentioned before, I had trouble using the slingshot. If you're more successful with the slingshot, more power to you, but for me, I just needed a bit more base attack, and the elemental mastery helps, and of course the burst damage, getting a 48% increase in damage is also really good. And I know the team that I used is not the most free-to-play friendly team ever. I had Nahida, I had Zhongli, and I had Yaimiko. Those are literally, this is all a 5-star team, so opposite of free-to-play friendly here, but it is Spiral Abyss. I'm not the best player in the world, so of course I'm gonna bring the best characters that I have when going into it. I'm not, you know, that good like other people out there, but I try my best. So hopefully this guide was helpful and maybe made you want to actually decide to build on building your Tighnari, maybe. If you do have any other questions on this character, maybe I didn't explain something well, maybe you still have other questions about other stuff, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll do my best to answer you. And with that being said, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. I will be making more in the future, so there's always that to look forward to. And with that being said, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.